The Power Factor Show with Rick, Steve, and Caleb. Episode 59.
You can find this podcast and others at Gun Rights Radio Network, gunrightsradio.com. Podcasting freedom.
Brought to you by Safariland.
Welcome to Power Factor. I'm Rick. Steve and Caleb are doing something else, so I'm going to go solo tonight. Before we get into the episode, which is another match review, since this is a shooting show, we decided we better do a little shooting. We're going to have another giveaway. It was very popular, sponsored by our host and sponsor, Safariland, and you will have a chance to win fabulous single stack mag pouch. This is the model 079536. Very nice, very nice. And if you'd like a chance to win, we have two. You have two chances to win. You can either like us on Facebook or subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/powerfactorshow. So get those like yous and subscriptions in. And at the end of February, we will do a random draw like we did last time for the Safariland gear. And I hope you win. So tonight's episode, I am going to do a match review similar to the one we did earlier on the Double Tap Championship that Steve and I shot in June. This is going to be for a local match. Later episode, you'll see Caleb do his review of the same match. But this is my run on 5 stages. It was a beautiful day, which is one of the reasons I was out there. As you've heard me comment before, I generally do not shoot in inclement weather. I believe the match was about 3 weeks ago, and it was a beautiful day to be out at the range, and it was a lot of fun. I was essentially coming out of hibernation in terms of match shooting. I didn't shoot much over the winter. Just specifically in December and January, a lot of the local clubs in our section shut down for the winter. This one particular club where we shot the match is active all winter, so it was nice. Got out there, got some fresh air, and got to shoot a few rounds. It also, as you watch the video, as I watch the video, you'll see that shooting skills are very, you can easily lose them. I mean, they're perishable if you don't practice. And as you'll see from my performance on some of these stages, they were perishing in December and January. So without further ado, we'll get into the details of the match. I shot in single stack division using the Colt Government model that I've featured in a number of episodes. I was using my Davis Leather Omega gun sight holster. I used Checkmate 8-round competition mags, and my load is a 200 grain Bear Creek polymer coated black bullet over 4.3 grains of Hodgdon clays, and I was using Steve's favorite Russian Wolf primers. And let's get into the stages. We'll start with what I assume is stage 1. All right, so stage 1 is a type of stage that is characteristic of the club where we shot the match. It's a memory stage, and by a memory stage, there's a long, essentially wide shooting box that stretches the full width of the shooting bay. Downrange from that, there's a series of walls with gaps between the walls that allow you to view the targets that are then set behind the walls. As you move laterally along the bay, certain targets will appear, disappear, and reappear as your perspective changes relative to the targets in the walls. So the problem is remembering which targets to engage from each shooting position you've decided to shoot from. Remember not to re-engage targets you've already shot if and when they reappear, and then fit your reloads in as well. I think it was a 26-round course of fire, so I'm going to have shooting 8+1. I'm going to have to reload multiple times. And so, like, if you're shooting limited, you can get through it with one reload. If you're shooting open, you can get through it without a reload. But shooting revolver or single stack especially, you always want to do your reloads while you're moving, so you're not eating into the time when you're shooting. So from my perspective, I want to break the stage down into ideally 6 or 8 round bites that allow me to get my engagements done from each position and then reload while I move to the next one. Now the real issue, of course, is accounting for all the targets as they're appearing and disappearing. And I walked through this stage probably a dozen times. And the first, that is for anybody shot, there's a walkthrough period that the squad can review the stage figure out how they want to address things. And probably the first 4 or 5 times I walked through it, I couldn't even come up with a total of 26 rounds. I mean, I'd walk through the whole thing. I'd be going, okay, 2, 4, 6, and I want to reload as I move to here. 2, 4, 6, 8, and then I want to reload. And I'd get to the end and realize I'd only came up with 22 rounds. So I'd go back and start over again and go 2, 4, 2 steel, 6, 8, and do it again. I get to the end. Okay, now I've got 24 rounds. So probably the first 5 times through, I couldn't even find all 26 rounds. And then like the last 3 times, I felt like, okay, 26, and I did it again, 26, I did it again, 26, okay, that's it. And I get to the line, I think I'm all ready to go. And as you'll see, what happens is I not only was, what I should have been concerned with is which targets I was engaging from each location, but what I did instead was I was thinking about round count. And I took an extra shot, at least one extra shot at a popper, and that completely blew my plan, because instead of this engagement from this one position that I'd set up where I'm going to shoot, this target, this steel, when I missed the steel, now instead of it being an 8-shot array, it's a 9-shot array, and it just completely blew my plan. I was really very disappointed, because I generally, that's I think one of the things that I do pretty well is dope out the stages and come up with a good plan. And you'll see that as soon as I start moving and shooting, that's when the plan is going sideways. Everything was supposed to be shot from a static position with reloads taking place while I was moving. But you'll see me start to move, and then at the end, I kind of shake my head like I knew I missed something, and of course I did. I completely failed to engage one target. So let's take a look and see how this goes.
All right, shooter, do you understand the course of fire?
I hope so.
If you do, then
You see my confidence. Do you understand the course of fire? I hope so. Get that gun loaded. I was carrying 5 mags on my belt at this match, which I normally don't do, and so the reach for that 5th one was considerable. I don't think I ever actually drew it out of the pouch except to load the gun. So here we go.
Are you ready? Stand by.
So here we go. Okay, now here's my reload. As I step a little bit forward, exposes another target. Now here. There you go. Okay. Yeah, I can't hit that target when I'm standing still, so let's see if I can hit it while I'm moving. Mag sticks in the gun. That's always fun. Yeah. This is where I know things are going bad. Like, Jesus. And then I go back. I think it's that one. That's the one. I think that's the one I didn't shoot. Yeah. So anyway, so that was an interesting start to the day. I had the 2 mics with a failure to engage. Other than that, I did pretty well. But it was just, not the best performance. And again, I attribute most of that to the layoff. But if you ever run into stages like that, you really have to come up with a plan and stick to it. And that means not do what I did. Don't get hung up on round count. Make sure you've got your targets identified. If I just decided to complete the engagement like I'd planned it, and maybe it would have caused me to do an extra reload, but I got out of sequence with my movement and reload by missing that steel target, and it screwed me up for the rest of the stage. Okay, this next stage is kind of an interesting one. It's 2 strings. Both are engage each target with 1 round, reload, and then engage each target with 1 round, strong hand only. And each array consists of targets with no shoots applied in front of them. And I think that's always one of the more fun type of target engagements, is trying to shoot a scoring target that's got a no shoot attached to it, either with strong hand or weak hand. I mean, I think it's one of the more fun aspects of USPSA. So we'll see how well I do on this run. The camera, the lens on the camera makes it look like I'm aiming like 90 degrees to the target, but I'm actually engaging the targets that you see on the screen. Oh yeah, lightning fast reload. And I think here I have to look and see, did I hit a no shoot? I don't like to look, but you just can't resist the urge to look. Oh, darn it. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I only hit one, and plenty of people hit 3 or 4 on this stage, so I felt actually pretty happy
Stand
about
by.
that. Here we go. This one I think was clean. That one went all right. You know, that's just standard. You know, we've covered stuff in previous episodes about shooting strong hand, shooting weak hand. You know, like if you remember, Steve was kind of a proponent of staying square to the target and essentially just dropping the support hand off when you're shooting strong hand. And I tend to more kind of blade to the target and lean into it a little bit. And, you know, you can pick your poison. That's just up to the shooter. I tend to like to get my weight forward a little bit, but, you know, you can do it either way. That stage that's a pretty challenging stage. I mean, having every target essentially with a no-shoot looming like that, even if you're a good shot, I think psychologically it can really mess with you to have those no-shoots in close proximity. I remember one guy posted on a forum saying he didn't care if a target had a no-shoot attached to it or not because he's always aiming at the center of the A zone regardless. And I think that's BS. I always aim at in the middle of what I have available. So if the no-shoot target comes all the way over and covers half the A zone, I'm not trying to hit half the A zone. I'm aiming at the middle of the remainder of the target that's left. So I'm essentially aiming at the edge of the A zone, and the smaller the shooting area available, I'm still just moving my point of aim to the middle of what I have left. So on a stage like this, the videos kind of exaggerate the distance. Those shots were, you know, I don't know, 10 or 12 yards, but still, you know, I always aim at the middle of whatever of the target is available to me. Okay, now this stage is probably my favorite one of the match. If you guys watched the last episode where we talked about stage design theory, this is the kind of theory that I like, where there's movement. The amount of movement is kind of proportional to the number of targets there are to engage. And there's stuff that's shot on the move, stuff that's shot through ports, stuff that's wide open. One of the other things we talked about in the last episode was how you can get sucked into doing things by the way the design of the stage is laid out. And if you watch, I kind of get sucked into it here. Here I'm shooting through a port, then I move to another port. And then this next target right here, that's the only target that's engaged on the course of fire that is not shot through a port. It's just wide open. You can get as close to it as you want to shoot it. And I missed it. I had a miss on it. All the shots that I'm leaning, I'm scrunching, I'm ducking, all those I get. But the target that's right there yakking at me right in front of my face, I missed it. And that's a common thing, I think, when you get caught up in you lose your concentration on that target precisely because it's the easiest one. You don't give it the attention it deserves. And so that's something just to be aware of. When you see a target like that, it's thrown in there and it should be the easiest one, but in that case, it was not. Okay, this fourth stage, it's an interesting stage. It's very similar to the last one in that you've got, there's some crisscross movement in the bay, lots of ports. There's an interesting situation that comes up where I believe it's the second array. From the start position, I go all the way to the right side of the range, and then I'll come back to the left side. And I had a trigger freeze issue or something. We'll see it in the video. And even as I'm starting to kind of pull out of the port, I fire another shot at the target. And it's kind of interesting because I've done that a number of times when I have this sense that I'm going to run right past the port, and rather than kind of gather myself up and get back into my shooting position that I was in, I'll just kind of leave that arm kind of around on the other side of the wall and fire another shot. And the first time I was ever disqualified at a match, which was probably 3 or 4 years ago now, it was for doing that very thing. I was in a situation where there were walls coming out from the side berm and target arrays between each set of walls. And so as you're moving down range, you've got a certain amount of time based on how quickly you're moving to get off the required number of rounds if you don't want to stop. So it's a similar situation to what we're going to see on this stage, where I'm moving along and my reload just took like a half a step longer than I had planned for. And so just as the wall is kind of passing behind me almost, I need to get off another shot. And so I allowed my body to go past the wall, but kept my arm on this side of it and just kind of point shot the target. It was, again, these orange, what we call snow fence walls. So you can see through the wall. I can see the gun, I can see the target, but the wall is between me and the gun, or the gun and I, actually. And so I fired the round, and then as I brought the gun out like this to get it back around the wall, the RO judged that as I pulled it back like this, even though the muzzle was pointed down range, the muzzle was essentially uprange of my body. And he called that a 180 violation and disqualified me. And not to get too far afield, I don't agree with that interpretation of the 180 rule. In my mind, the 180 is related to the direction that the muzzle is pointing. If the muzzle is pointing down range, it shouldn't matter. Like when I've run up range, I've held the gun like this as I move, and the gun is essentially up range of my body as I'm moving, but the muzzle is pointed directly down range. And that to me seems like a legal move. But in the safety officer's estimation, as I pulled the gun out like this from behind the wall, broke the 180. And a similar situation is going to happen here. The producer was the range officer at the time, and he kindly didn't disqualify me. But let's give this one a watch. And at the end, there's another little bit of gymnastics. I'd seen another shooter engage the last steel popper. I think it was Caleb, actually. He kind of dove out, let his momentum kind of carry him out of the box. And so it's one of those deals where you're on the target, and if you don't hit it, your momentum is going to carry you out of the shooting box. And Caleb pulled it off, so I figured, well, I better try that, and you'll see it without much success.
Make ready. Are you ready? Stand by.
So here we go, 2468. Reload. There we go. Little chuckle from the range officer. You can see the popper straight down range that I'm going to try to hit with my last acrobatic shot. Yeah, notice I was safe. I was safe the whole time.
That's right.
What did you think over here?
That was good. 281.
So that was kind of fun.
One steal.
One steal. Nice. Okay, so the last stage is classifier, high standards, I believe. And it's a freestyle, two-string, freestyle strong, and then freestyle weak on an El Presidente style target array. And you'll notice as I'm doing my reload between the freestyle pass and the strong hand pass, I kind of rotate my body a little bit and drop my strong or weak side leg back. And that's kind of my braced strong hand position. And then on the second string, when it's freestyle weak, I kind of do the same thing. During the reload, I rotate my strong leg back, which gives me a little more solid platform for the weak hand shots. And again, it looks like I'm shooting at targets that are way off to the left, but this is distortion from the lens. Here we go, getting all set.
Are you ready? Stand by.
And you see I rotate my body a little bit, drop the right leg back. There you go.
For your next string.
I'm kind of looking down there. You can see 45 caliber holes from quite a distance, so I'm looking down there to see if I have any mics. On a day like that, it was necessary to look for things like that. Okay, here we go. Do a little weak hand
Are you ready? Stand by.
sight picture action there, or pantomime anyway. Oh.
You finish unloading show clear.
There we go.
Clear, slide forward, helmet out, holster. Range is safe.
Safer. So that was 5 stages of the match. It's kind of interesting in that sometimes you'll shoot a match and you'll look at the results and you'll be cheered by how you did in the standings. Other times you'll feel like you shot as well as you could, and then you look in the results and maybe you didn't do so well, but you can take something away from it just knowing that you did the best you could and you had a good match. This was an interesting match in that I really did not feel good about the results. I hadn't shot for a while and just felt rusty. But apparently everybody else was in the same boat, because there were a lot of misses, a lot of no-shoots that everybody was throwing. So it didn't turn out to be such a bad deal. I actually won single stack division. I should have won it, but I was actually surprised by the victory margin, if you will. And it was just, I think, the same deal where there's just not that many matches to shoot in the winter. Everybody was kind of coming out of hibernation for their first match of the year, and it's mostly just kind of getting the cobwebs out and getting back out there and getting the blood pumping. So it was a fun match, had a good time. If you have any questions about anything, like how can you screw up so many times in one match and still win, stuff like that, you can send us an email. But we'll go on. We've got some other just kind of random stages since this match didn't really fill out the whole episode. We'll just do some random stuff. We'll show you some other clips of local matches that I've shot and give you an idea of the different things we see. Okay, well, the review of the IPSC match didn't take very long, so we're just going to do a couple more stages. I think every time, the few times that I've been featured shooting on the show, it's been either in a US PSA match where I'm shooting single stack division, or it's been an IDPA match where I'm shooting in custom defensive pistol, usually the same gun both times. The producer was able to dig into his massive video archives and come up with some other video clips of me shooting at various matches. So I thought I'd just throw some up here, get to see me dabbling, in this case, in Enhanced Service Revolver Division in IDPA. So here we are shooting while retreating to the back of the car. Notice I'm not retreating very fast because my revolver skills are not all that great. Now, this is sort of like the $6 Million Man. Even though I'm already moving really slow, it's in slow motion to make it look like I'm moving really fast. So there's my reload. And now back up. So there you go. That's our cool prop car that we have at the range. We both shoot around the car and shoot from inside the car. And if you can arrange that at your range, it's a really cool deal. It gives you a lot of different things you can do. Here's another stage. This is an interesting one where we're shooting in tactical sequence at 2 targets that are 180 degrees apart. And then a little retreating from the third guy. That's kind of interesting. We had another stage like that at a recent match, and a lot of people were blowing it because, of course, they see that one target sitting there and they really want to double tap it. So that made for a little interesting commentary on that stage. Here's another one, more IDPA, Enhanced Service Revolver Division. I'm shooting my Thunder Ranch Model 22, drawn from a Don Hume holster using Shoot a Moon clips and clip holders. And you'll notice on the first target that we cut out the middle of the down zero zone, because at contact distance like that, you'll just blow all the tape off. And so that's kind of I don't really like it as a solution because I have problems shooting through the hole rather than having a distinct target to shoot at. But it certainly makes it a lot easier than trying to tape, what would turn out after the first couple of shooters, you'd be taping, 15 or 20 holes each time. So now we're going to go to a different match, still shooting revolver in ESR, an IDPA match. And this one is, got my little tool bag, and the reload is inside the bag, which makes it kind of interesting because there is some other junk in there. So you're kind of digging around looking for the reload. Strong hand revolver, another thing, not my strong suit, so I'm being real careful there. Now let's see, where's that clip? Oh yeah, there it is. This is another fun beta shooting. As you notice, the light is streaming in from right over the top of the berm, so all the targets are backlit, and you end up with a smoke cloud in front of your face if the sun is rising like that. So you want to shoot those bays either before the sun gets up over the top or later in the afternoon after the sun is already high in the sky. So that's a consideration if you can arrange that. If you're familiar with the range, try to shoot with the best lighting conditions.
Hands on table.
Now here's another one, more revolver action, using that little table as cover.
Stand by.
Oh yeah. And the gun is actually working. In a couple other videos, I'm using Steve's favorite Russian primers, and I had a few misfires, so I, of course, edited out the misfire stages, and we're just another lightning fast reload. And I'm so slow on the trigger, and I have a misfire here, and then it kind of fires, oh, oopsie, right as it disappears. So that was kind of fun.
So clear. Clear, close it up.
Close it up being the new, there's going to be a new IDPA rules addendum where they've changed the range command for revolver shooters to close it up at the end. Wait for that. The producer was just kind of anticipating. He heard, early on that they were going to make that change, so he just decided to throw it out there. So now we're going to see, I think, looking back, this is a match from a couple years ago, and I think it's the only time I shot in limited division with a high cap gun. When I started shooting limited and open were the only divisions there were, and I shot limited with a single stack 45 and 10 round mags. But here I actually for a while had a high cap 45 Springfield GI with a lot of mods on it, and I'm using the Blade Tech just straight drop standard holster, and I actually shoved the mags into a mag pouch for Browning high power. They didn't really fit very well, but it got me through one match. Oh yeah, blazing away. I think I only had to do one reload the whole, I guess 2 reloads. I guess that's the beauty of limited division. Seem to be hitting just about everything I shoot at on that one. That was a good run. Then we got one more stage. Oh, one more stage. This is another one, shooting limited. Same match. Where are we here? 019. I don't see 019. Must be 29. This is another memory stage, although we've got trees now acting as the barriers rather than walls. As I'm moving across the bay, you can see targets are kind of disappearing behind trees and then reappearing on the other side. And I think I didn't screw this one up, so that's good. A little bit better planning on my part. Again, though, I missed the steel, so I start shooting it on the move, which makes a lot of sense. If I can't hit it standing still, I should be able to hit it moving, right? So there you go. So that's a little insight into what I'm doing when I'm not shooting in CDP or single stack division. Again, if you have any questions, you can contact us at powerfactorshow@gmail.com or the show, powerfactorshow.com. And remember to like us and subscribe to the show at youtube.com/powerfactorshow. And we'll do the prize drawing again at the end of February. So if you want a chance to win these lovely Safariland 1911 single stack mag pouches, try to win them, and we hope you win. So from me alone, it's Rick saying goodbye from Power Factor Show, and we'll be back next week.